Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's just be very blunt and clear about what's happening here today, as Mr. Paoletta just indicated. It's very clear that our Democrat colleagues and many Democrats across the country are continuing to bully and intimidate the Supreme Court now that there's a conservative majority. I mean, that's clear. Judicial ethics is obviously a subject worthy of our examination, but Democrats' goal in this hearing is clearly to attack Justice Clarence Thomas. We've heard it over and over. It was occasioned by the recent news events. And Democrat attacks on Justice Thomas and his wife Jenny are overtly and overtly partisan and clearly wrong. And if anybody thinks that the charge that Democrats are attempting to bully and intimidate the court is hyperbole, just Google the video of the comments that Mr. Paoletta mentioned. Just one instance, March 2020, Senator Chuck Schumer. I'm going to say it again. He threatened conservative justices on the highest court in this country, on the steps of the Supreme Court, while the court was hearing oral arguments in the June Medical Services case, the Louisiana abortion case, which ironically, I was the trial court litigator on that case before I got to Congress years ago. And he said this is what he said, quote, this is Chuck Schumer, okay, leading Democrat in the U.S. Senate. He says, I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you've released the whirlwind. You will pay the price. You won't know what hits you if you go forward with these awful decisions. It's staggering that a member of the U.S. Senate, a leader of the U.S. Senate would say such a thing about our third branch and the justices who serve there. Mr. Paoletta, while Democrats continue their public smear campaigns against conservative justices, they obviously fail to call out the egregious behavior of liberals, judges, justices, and politicians. Isn't it true that during Justice Ginsburg's tenure on the court, her own daughter drafted an amicus brief in a case before the court, and the petitioners in the case cited that brief numerous times?
That's correct.
Did she recuse herself from that matter?
She did not.
In 2016, Justice Ginsburg made public comments criticizing then-presidential candidate Donald J. Trump, calling him a faker and questioning why candidate Trump had yet to overturn his tax returns. Do you know whether Justice Ginsburg recused herself from matters involving the Trump administration or President Trump's tax returns?
She did not.
My Democrat colleagues regularly like to complain about conservative judges and justices speaking at Federalist Society events. This is a drumbeat that we hear all the time, as if somehow they're engaging in grand conspiratorial discussions. But isn't it true that Justice Sotomayor, for example, is scheduled to appear at the American Constitution Society, which is the left's version of the Federalist Society, at their national convention this summer?
Correct.
I haven't heard any public outcry about that. Maybe we should start a petition and ask her not to do that. Despite these and countless other examples, Democrats would like one set of standards to apply to conservative justices, like Justice Thomas, and not liberal justices and judges. Mr. Paoletta, why do you think congressional Democrats only train their ire on the conservative judges appointed by Republican presidents?
Again, I think this is a concerted effort to undermine the legitimacy of the court right now with this conservative working majority. With respect to the Justice Ginsburg example with her daughter, in fact, a court watcher noticed and said that in reviewing the decision that Justice Ginsburg, perhaps influenced by her daughter's opinion, law review article, came out a copyright hawk, which looked like she was influenced by her daughter's opinion or article. You know, I think it's just an effort to delegitimize the court.
And you are probably aware, I know members of this subcommittee are, that H.R. 2584, the Judiciary Act, that's co-authored by Representatives Nadler and Chairman Hank Johnson, would add 4 justices to the court to give liberals a 7-6 majority. Shows their great concern about that. And then the Judicial Conference's most recent recommendation asked Congress to create 77 new district court judgeships. And our chairman of this subcommittee, Chairman Hank Johnson, introduced a bill to create 203. So it seems apparent there's a long list of actions and activities that they've taken and statements they've made. I'm running out of time. I don't have the time to list it all here, but it is quite clear that there is a grave concern on their part that we do have a conservative majority this time around, and they're taking these desperate attempts to change the rules, change the count of judges, change the court itself, because they're so deeply concerned about that. I just think it's just readily apparent. I think it needs to be pointed out because it's so obvious. I'm grateful for the clarity and conviction of your testimony. I appreciate all of our witnesses be here, and I yield back.
Can I just add?
Sure, I have time.
Yeah, I mean, the talk from a lot of advocates that the conservatives are bought and paid for by dark money is really just so offensive, and it shows up in some of the testimony here. But the idea, and Senator Whitehouse is the one who pushes this the most, which is that these 5 or 6 justices are bought and paid for by dark money on the conservative side is absolutely offensive to me.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Thank you. I yield back.